This is the fifth video of my series American and British pronunciation, and it's about stress patterns in both American and British English. But before I get to that, let me clarify again that when I say American English, I am referring to general American, and when I say British English, I'm referring to received pronunciation. I know very well that there are many regional variations of the English language in both the USA and the UK. Before we talk about stress patterns, let me discuss stress briefly. So, stress is all about short syllables and long syllables. So when I say that a syllable is stressed, it means that it has a longer pronunciation. And when I say a syllable is unstressed, it means that that syllable has a short pronunciation. So in the English language, a syllable is either stressed or unstressed. And usually, in a word, one syllable is stressed and all the others are unstressed, especially in British English. In American English, there are many times that the two syllables are stressed and all the others are unstressed. In British English, usually one syllable is stressed and all the others are unstressed. All right. So let's talk about the typical let's talk about a very common stress pattern in both American and British English. So let's take a look at these words. Okay, let's focus on this group of words first. So in the English language, usually if a two-syllable noun, if a noun has two syllables, usually the stress is on the first syllable, and if a verb has two syllables, then usually the stress is on the second syllable. That means that for two-syllable nouns, the first syllable has a long pronunciation and the second syllable has a short pronunciation. The tone doesn't matter, whether the tone is high or low. That's a little bit different. You can either, some people would also raise the tone of a stressed syllable. So aside from giving it a long pronunciation, they also raise the tone. But the most important thing there is the length of a syllable, of the length of how long you pronounce it. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Now, if you say rebel, that means a person who just rebelled, or a person who is rebellious. When you say rebel, that's an action word. It's a verb. Let's go to the next one. When you say refill, that's a noun. When you say refill, that's a verb. So when you say refill, the stress is on the first syllable. And when you say refill, the stress is on the second syllable. It's the same thing for these three other words. Refund and refund. So refund is a noun. Refund is a verb. It's the same for this one. Reject and reject. So reject is a noun. reject is a verb. So let me use this word in sentences. So if I say I should reject this proposal, I should reject this proposal. So the word reject in that sentence is a verb. And when I say these are rejects, these are rejects, in that sentence the word reject is a noun. And lastly, permit, permit and permit. So permit is a noun, permit is a verb. This is very typical in the English language. There are many other stress patterns. So this pattern is true for two-syllable nouns, verbs, and adjectives. For nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Okay. There are many other stress patterns, but we're not going to discuss that. If you want an extensive discussion about stress patterns, then comment down below, and if I receive enough number of requests, then I will create one. If not, if I will not create a video, then there are many other videos on YouTube, and there are many documents on the internet that can help you. All right. So let's examine these. Let's examine another group of words. So as you can see, these words, each of these words has two syllables, except the last one. Let's examine them one by one. The first one. So this word has two pronunciations. It's either dessert or desert. Dessert or desert. Now, the thing that I want to discuss, using these words is the schwa sound. You see, the schwa sound is the most common sound in the English language. Now, like I said before, a syllable is either short or long. So a short syllable is, of course, an unstressed syllable. So naturally, a short syllable has a short vowel, and a long syllable has a long vowel. Now, in the English language, every stressed syllable has either a long vowel or a diphthong. Now, a diphthong is a combination of two vowels, so naturally you need more time to pronounce a diphthong than to pronounce a short vowel. All right. Usually, when a syllable is converted into an unstressed syllable, then the vowel used there is either converted to the schwa sound or the short e sound. And the schwa sound is the most common, and that's why the schwa sound is the most common sound in the English language. Now let's examine the word desert, for example. So when I say desert, the first syllable has a long vowel. If I say desert, so desert means an arid land or a dry land. That's the meaning of desert, right? And the first syllable is stressed because it's a noun. So the vowel e is a long vowel, and that's why it's used. Naturally it would be used in these first syllable. Now for the second syllable, the schwa sound is used. The schwa sound is used, and the schwa sound is a short sound. So Since it is an unstressed syllable, you cannot use a long vowel. You can only use a short vowel. So you can only use a short vowel in short syllables. Now, the other pronunciation of this word is dessert. Now, dessert and desert are not the same. So a desert is a dry land. To desert means to leave. To desert means to leave. For example, I would say, I don't want to desert my house. Or I don't want to desert the military. That means I don't want to leave the military. To desert means to leave without giving any notice. So to desert means to leave without giving any notice. Right. So when you say dessert, as you noticed, the first syllable is short and the second syllable is long. So this vowel is converted into a short. The first vowel is converted into a short syllable, the short E sound. Let's examine the second word. Right, so this word has two pronunciations. You can either say object or object. So when I say object, that's a noun. When I say object, that's a verb. So let me use it in sentences. So when I say this object is hard, I'm talking about the noun object. But when I say I always object to his proposals, I always object to a politician's proposals, so that means that the word I'm using, object, is a verb. All right, now let's examine the word object. So for the word object, the first syllable is long, the second syllable is short. So the vowel a is long. The vowel a is long. So naturally, you use a long vowel for the first syllable because you are stressing the first syllable, and the second syllable is unstressed. So you use the schwa sound You use the schwa sound because it is an unstressed syllable. Now, now for the word object is a verb. So for the word object, the first syllable is unstressed, the second syllable is stressed. And that means that for the first syllable, you cannot use a long vowel. Now that the ah sound is a long vowel, you cannot use it since it is unstressed. And that's why the first vowel sound is converted into a schwa sound. It is converted into a schwa sound. So unstressed syllables, the vowels of unstressed syllables are automatically converted into schwa sounds or the short E sound, usually. Right. So that's how stress works in the English language. Okay, let's discuss the other three. So this one is either pronounced perfect or perfect. Perfect or perfect. So perfect is an adjective and perfect is a verb. Okay, so I forgot to add that if a two-syllable word is either a noun or an adjective, then the first syllable is stressed, usually. There are exceptions, of course. And if a two-syllable verb is pronounced, then the second syllable is stressed. Okay, the next word, this can be either affix or affix. So an affix is a unit of a language. For example, suffixes and prefixes and infixes. So those are the kinds of affixes. Now, to affix means to add or to, it usually means to add. And the last word, this word can be either pronounced invalid or invalid. So an invalid is a helpless person usually, and when you say invalid, that means not valid. Okay, there you go. So that's how stress works in the English language. As they say, English is a stress-timed language. That means that stress is very important in the English language. The meaning of a word can change because of stress, or the meaning of English words can change if you stress another syllable, or if you change which syllable you should stress. Chinese is a tonal language, because if you change the tone of a word, then the meaning of a word also changes. Vietnamese and Thai are also tonal languages, if I'm not wrong. And Japanese is a pitch accent language, because if you change the pitch of a group of morae in the Japanese language, then the meaning of what you're saying, of a word, changes too. Or in a group of words, if you change the pitch of a group of words, what you're saying would be awkward, although people might understand you. I don't know how to speak Japanese, but I studied a little bit of the Japanese language. Now let's discuss some stress patterns, and we'll discuss the differences between American pronunciation and British pronunciation when it comes to stress. The first stress pattern that we will discuss would be stress patterns regarding French loanwords in the English language. So these 5 words are examples of French loanwords in the English language. I've heard that in French, words, the last syllable tends to be stressed. I don't know if that's true. I just heard it from someone. I don't know how to speak French, although I'm familiar with a few French words. Okay, let's discuss this one, the first one. So in general American, this word is pronounced debris, and in received pronunciation it is, or in British English, it is pronounced debris. So in general American, the last syllable is stressed, the first syllable or the second syllable is stressed, the first syllable is unstressed, debris. And it's the same for this one. So Americans would say detail, and British people would say detail. So again, for the word detail, the second syllable is stressed, the first one is unstressed. And for detail, that's British, the first syllable is stressed, second one is unstressed. And for this next word, Americans say baton, and British people say baton. I think that's it, yeah, baton, if I'm not wrong. So if you haven't watched my video about differences in vowel sounds, then check it. I think it's the third or fourth part. Yeah, the fourth part of this series, and I talked about the differences in vowel sounds. And the last one, adult and adult. So Americans say adult, and British people say adult. Say adult and adult. There you go. And the last one, this one. So Americans would usually say garage, garage, and British would either say garage or garage. It's either garage or garage. Both are standard in British English, or specifically received pronunciation. But there you go. So that's the first stress pattern. All right. So the next two stress patterns that we would discuss would be stress patterns regarding words which end in ary or ary and mony, like these words. Okay, so let's get to the pronunciation of these words. So Americans would pronounce these words as honorary, contrary, and imaginary. And British people would usually pronounce these words as honorary, contrary, and imaginary. All right, so these are some words which show very common differences in stress patterns between American pronunciation and British pronunciation. And these are the words which show that usually they're in American English, sometimes two syllables are stressed or two syllables sound stressed. So sometimes in American English, one word has a primary stress and another word has a secondary stress, and you just call that, and that's why they say that sometimes there are two words which are stressed in American English, but in British English, usually there's just one stressed syllable. And these words show that. Okay, so let's pronounce them again. Americans say honorary. British people say honorary. So honorary and honorary are not the same. It's the same for this one. Contrary and contrary are not the same. Imaginary and imaginary are not the same. Okay, so for this word, there are it sounds like there are two stressed syllables for American English and one stressed syllable for British English. Okay, let's get to these words. The first one, Americans say ceremony, and British people say ceremony, and ceremony. And for this one, British people say testimony, Americans say testimony. And the last one, acrimony for British, acrimony for American English. As you can see, so for these words, there are two stressed syllables for each word for American English, and there's one stressed syllable for British English. And this letter is pronounced O in American English. So this one is a diphthong in American English, and in British English it is a schwa sound. It is a schwa sound. Ceremony. And And for this one, for American English, the letter A is pronounced e, like in honorary, honorary. And for British, it is a schwa sound, like in honorary, honorary. There you go. All right. Now there are many other differences when it comes to stress, and I'm not going to give a comprehensive discussion in this video because if I think it would be better to create a comprehensive discussion in another video. The point of this video is to create a very distinct, a big distinction between stress patterns. I mean, American stress patterns and British stress patterns. Just enough for people to be able to recognize the differences between American pronunciation and British pronunciation. Okay. Now, if you want a comprehensive discussion of stress patterns, then comment on the comment section below. And if I receive enough requests, then I will create one. So there we go. You're now familiar with very common differences between stress patterns in American English and stress patterns in British English. So I think I discussed 5 things. First one is the final R. The second one that I discussed is the R sound when followed by a consonant sound, or the R sound which follows a consonant sound, or the R sound before a consonant sound. And the first 2 videos that I created is about it's about American English being a rhotic English, or American English has a rhotic accent. If you don't know what that means, you can Google it down, or you can watch my 2 videos and you'll know the meaning of rhotic and other things related to it. The third video I created is about the T sound and how it is pronounced in both American English and British English. The third one, I think, the third one is about T sounds. The fourth one is about vowels and diphthongs in both American and British English. And this 5th video is about stress. So those are the 5 big differences when it comes to American and British English.